if they wish to bottle a cask, maybe take for their friends and family.
I think, what's important to remember is that 9 times out of 10, the easiest, most simplest option.
Worked in what was the best whiskey bar in the world, voted that year.
So I'll put this to you, Rob. What are you doing?
As far as we're concerned, it's the most exciting thing that's ever happened to us.
So welcome to Whisky Matters episode number 5. Today I'm joined by Robert Long, who's our head of trading at Vintage Acquisitions, and also Guy Roper, who's one of our senior traders here. So welcome to the podcast, first of all.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It took a while to get here, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Good stuff. So first of all, Rob, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm from London. I'm from Bermondsey, as you may well tell from the accent. So I'm originally was in print for 25 years, had my own business and sold that 7 years ago, took an interest in whiskey and then found myself here full-time 3 years ago. I'm now currently the head of trading for Vintage Acquisitions. Really pleased to be here. Absolutely love whiskey. It's taken over my life. It's become all-consuming, although the consuming part is most of that is whiskey. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. It took a while to get here. I noticed that we've done 4 episodes before, and I've not been invited on one yet. So actually, I feel quite privileged. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All the other ones before were just test ones. We wanted to get it right. We wanted to get it right for when you joined us.
Building up to the peak. Yes.
Good stuff. And what about you, Guy? What's your background?
So I've worked in whiskey for several years, worked for several different whiskey companies, worked in what was the best whiskey bar in the world, voted that year in 2021, and then worked my way up through being an ambassador, working in the cask industry, and moved down to London at the start of the year. Grew up in Edinburgh, so Scottish born and bred. The accent doesn't necessarily come through as the thickest, but I can promise you, got that Scottish blood in me.
I'm not sure that's true. It comes through loud and clear.
But moved down to London and continued my working in the cask trade, which is absolutely where I want to be. Brilliant. And
Good stuff. And you've now been elected to our tasting panel as well, which I think you're enjoying, right?
Yeah, deeply enjoying. It's quite a treat of the job.
Good. Well, look, we're very, very lucky to have you both. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. Now, one thing that comes up quite a lot when we speak to new clients, and it's a really important question, is how to exit the market. If people are purchasing as an investment, then the most important part of the investment is being able to exit and being able to exit smoothly and swiftly. So what I'd like to ask is just ask you, the clients that you've exited from the market so far and what options are available to all the clients that you have.
Yeah, what I would say first and foremost on that, Sam, is that I feel that this is probably the most important part of buying a cask. Casks are available through many other companies, but there's not many that have our experience and are as established as Vintage Acquisitions. Therefore, our 13 years of trading means that our experience in trying to exit people means that we have many channels. We describe it as 6 exit strategies. First and foremost, we would always like first refusal on any cask that we have sold previously. So when a client chooses to exit that cask, we would always like first refusal on it. Secondly, we would also put that on our live inventory, where we have a host of collectors, independent bottlers who constantly watch our live inventory, who are often very keen to try and find casks of a certain maturation. So that always gives us a second great option. And third is you could auction the cask yourself. So therefore, any one of our clients who'd like to put that cask out at auction, that's available to them. Fourth, if they wish to bottle a cask, maybe take for their friends and family, that's obviously another route in which they could exit out. There may well be an independent bottler out there, someone certainly like ourselves who would like to own that cask and therefore bottle it ourselves moving forward. Obviously, there are certain, interim points that I would need to make on that, but I think you'll elaborate on that a little bit further, Sam.
Yeah.
And then, on a very rare occasion, the distillery, if a cask is mature or a certain rarity, a distillery would like to purchase that cask back themselves. So that's always another option for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is probably an option that is the least regular. Let's say in fact it's incredibly rare for a distillery to buy back a cask. But where there's been lots of distilleries that have been mothballed and they've now been resurrected, then because they don't have a lot of stock, old stock, then we have actually been contacted by some companies and distilleries, and they've asked us whether our clients hold certain stock because they'd be fairly interested in purchasing it back. But that happens very, very rarely. I think what you touched on there is that, you're not pigeonholed into one exit strategy. And is that something that your clients feel is sort of advantageous to them? Is that something that attracts them to the market, that they're not pigeonholed into they have to sell it back to us?
I think it's good to have lots of options, especially because this industry is growing, it's developing. It's obviously centuries old, but it is still growing in really exciting ways. So having those options, having those numerous options that we can go down, because even in the last sort of 10, 20 years, the amount of independent bottlers who are coming to the surface, growing success, it is something that casks, especially single cask whiskey, is going to be in huge demand. From all the market data we can see, the demand's only going up. So I think having those numerous options, being able to put, when clients buy it and it's completely theirs, I think that is something that's a bit of peace of mind for them, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We can be confident in how the market's going to look. So it is something that kind of we can work with, and as the market develops, it allows them to go down whatever avenue suits them. Obviously, what we do is the majority of the time we want, as we said, first refusal to those casks. We sell quality whiskey. So that is something that we want access back to in good time.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think that's something that we can kind of.
Just also to touch on that the market is growing, and therefore it's very difficult to now source casks. That's going to change dramatically as well, with lots of other things like the India Free Trade Agreement, the CPTPP, who are now bringing down their sanctions and their trade agreements from 80% down to net zero, hopefully over the next 5 years. All of that is going to create a greater demand for cask whiskey, certainly for independent investors. Also, what we have is the institutional funds that we've been working on, in the Middle East, in Dubai and Singapore. These institutional funds are looking to take huge tranches of casks out of the market. So, when it comes to that supply chain of who would buy my cask, that's growing exponentially. And I think we're going to see that only get to a peak over the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what's important to remember is that 9 times out of 10, the easiest, most simplest option for our clients is to sell the cask back to us. It's a transfer of paperwork and the money's in their chosen bank account within 24 hours. Simple as that. And, and the fact is that we exit people from the market every single day of the week. This is a path well trodden for us. We're not a new company. We've been around 13 years, and therefore lots of our clients are exiting out of their investment. So I think, our clients will be very comfortable knowing that it's a path well trodden. So with regards to the point that you touched on, Guy, with the independent bottlers, absolutely, there's just been an explosion of independent bottlers recently. And what people don't tend to understand is that a cask sometimes outside of a distillery is actually more valuable than it is in the distillery. And I can hear people out there going, what on earth are you talking about? But, if you take, for instance, a cask of, let's say, Bunnahabhain, which, they produce their standard, 12-year-old, 18-year-old, and certain releases, which are, hundreds of casks of that age that are then all vatted together to make that 12-year-old, and the master blender messes around with it to make sure that the characteristics and the flavour taste exactly the same, and it's the same ABV, and it's consistent. If you took a cask of Bunnahabhain outside of the distillery, you might decide that actually you want to re-rack it into a rum cask, or you want to re-rack it into a Napa Valley Californian red wine cask, or you might want to do both. You might want to re-rack it into a red wine cask for a couple of years, then put it into a rum cask or a cognac cask or whatever it might be. And then you might decide that you want to bottle it at, let's say, 14 years old or 17 years old, something that's never been done by the distillery before, so
it's
therefore
uniqueness, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
that creates the rarity. It's that creates the exclusivity around a certain product. So single cask sales obviously are more sought after, and I think that when you look at flavors and tastes, you're looking for something, you're trying to create something that's unique. And I think that re-racking obviously is another way of doing that. One of our customers recently has just done the same with a Lafite Barrique cask, which has changed the whole taste of and flavour of that whiskey, which now has made it very sought after in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. You can give that whiskey a real individuality, something completely unique that's never been done before. The flavour profile could be completely different, and the year that it's bottled, again, completely different than what's been done before. Mm-hmm. So it's we've got lots and lots of contacts with independent bottlers and other companies and individuals all over the world. So we're never short of people that want to purchase these casks back. Not to mention our award-winning independent bottling company, Vintage Bottlers. And in the future, and I'm talking, 10, 20 years down the line, we will be coming to Vintage Acquisitions clients in order to, purchase those casks back to put them into glass. So that's one of our points of our 360 approach that we've got here.
I think the best part of you mentioning that, Sam, was the pride on your face when you mentioned Vintage Bottlers and what it's done in the award-winning series. It's incredible what's happened. Fairy tale story, only 2.5 years of Vintage Bottlers and already 6 awards in the bag and many more to come. And also you being on the panel of the judges often helps.
Now, let me just remind you, it's all blind tasting.
Yeah,
you don't know what you're tasting.
Yes, I've heard.
No, it's good. Yeah, we are very, very proud on
we should be as well. It's brilliant what we've done.
Yeah,
and I think that people that have come in and sample our tastings, they get to reap the benefits, really, because obviously we produce those whiskies, and when they get to sample them, it's not often that you can taste whiskey of certain vintage age, 32 years old, and have people enjoy that flavour that goes into it in a way that it's affordable. So, we should be very proud of what we're doing.
Absolutely. A small plea from me, we would love you to be part of our growth as a podcast. So to help us, please subscribe and give us feedback that will help us decide the guests we have on in the future and the topics we discuss. Thank you. So if we just have a quick recap. So the 6 options are: you can sell back to us, which we would hope would be you would give us first refusal, basically, to buy your cask back. Mm-hmm. You could sell it on, dare I say it, to one of our competitors or to an independent bottler, should you so wish. You could auction the cask and we could facilitate that trade for you. You could bottle it and enjoy it with family and friends, or put the bottles on auction, should you so wish. You wouldn't be able to sell the bottles unless you had an alcohol license, so let's make that clear. You possibly could sell it to a family member, a friend, a colleague as a private sale, and we can facilitate that for you. You could, very, very rarely does this happen, as I've said before, but there might be an opportunity to sell it back to the distillery, depending on how rare it is at the point of sale. So that gives you the 6 options. But I think what our clients are really pleased to know that they're not pigeonholed into one, and these are all flexible options for them. And just going down to on the auction site side of things, there's about half a dozen at the moment that sell casks. In 10, 15, 20 years, I would imagine that those sites will be incredibly popular.
And that's growing globally as well, isn't it? Because obviously what we know is that in the Far East and in Asia, and as their market starts to increase, There are auction houses open up in those areas that obviously want particular whiskies, so therefore you can add a premium to your car sale when it comes to putting it to auctions in different countries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Well, look, I mean, one other thing as well with regards to having your own cask and being able to have full autonomy over your cask is, Campbelltown Bond, which is our latest project. Most exciting project. We've just had planning and change of use agreed by Argyll and Bute Council, and we should be accepting casks by the end of this summer with a bit of luck. So once that is open and accepting casks, we will be transferring all of our clients' casks there. For one, they're going to be maturing less than 1,000 metres from the Atlantic Ocean, so they all should take on that saline, salty characteristic that we all know and love, right, Guy?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that Scotland's famous for, and many of the distilleries do flow along those rivers, lakes, and seas. So it's something that, it's synonymous with Scottish whisky is synonymous with fresh water, but also that sort of seasides expression as well. So
absolutely, and it really does come through. And if anybody hasn't experienced it yet, then get in touch, because we've got a number of different bottles through vintage bottlers that we could offer you that do have that saline characteristic in them. So yeah, it's going to be fantastic, because once our clients have their casks there, then again, re-racking, re-gauging, coming down and visiting the cask and drawing samples themselves and tasting it with family and friends, all of these things are going to be an option. And eventually putting the whiskey into glass through a bottling plant that's going to be on site. So
I think it's those features, isn't it? It's, we'll have a cooperage on site. So therefore, if anybody does want to re-rack, that's very simple for us to be able to accommodate. I think also with the bottling plant, we've got options for people to take for special occasions. Imagine coming to visit in our beautiful tasting room, coming to draw a dram from your own cask, and then being able to take bottles on special occasions. And then to celebrate, we have one of the most beautiful golf courses, an iconic golf courses, literally adjacent. I used to say it was a 7-iron. I think now it's a driver and a 7-iron for me away. But it's certainly somewhere where to enjoy the whole experience and maybe spend a full day. Hopefully at some point we may end up with accommodation and lodgings on site. And I think if you want to take friends and family for an experience, and how romantic to be able to bring your friends and family to a site where you can take your own whiskey from the cask, bottle it with a bottling plant on site, and then it will be the full 360. As far as we're concerned, it's the most exciting thing that's ever happened to us.
It just gives us so many options. We tried to establish very early on what people would want out of owning a cask. It's something that we tried to establish that in our first conversation, but it also gives so much freedom over a period of time. If people's plans change, they can open up what that could be. You can sit back and let your cask and whiskey mature, appreciate. It's one of the few things that you don't have to do anything to, and it will just improve over time. So it's something that you're not even locked in. If you're like, okay, I'm gonna buy this cask and sell it in X amount of years, if a plan changes, then it can be malleable to that. There are so many options with that, and that's one of the wonderful things. One of the wonderful things we love to share with our passion about whiskey and kind of the versatility of it, which is so handy.
Absolutely, this is it. I mean, whiskey by its pure nature can't help but improve the longer it's held in the cask. So it's a really easy
value, Sam.
Yeah. Well, this is it. This is what makes it such an easy investment methodology to understand. The only thing is it's long term. We can't speed up the maturation process. It takes as long as it takes. But like you said with Campbelltown Bond, we want to bring these tangible products to life. We want to bring the whiskey to life. We don't want it to just be a certificate or an online account that you can log into. We want people to come and visit their cask, draw samples, taste it. It's the full multi-sensory product.
I think it's that see it, taste it, touch it, smell it. All of those things add a bit of romance, but also they just make the whole process a little bit more tactile. Yeah. I think that when you think about whiskey and whiskey ownership in the past, it's very much been around my cask sits in Bond. I never really get to see it, what's in it. Now all of that goes away, and we'll be able to make this a real story for people as they move through their journey.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, people quite often say to us, can I visit my cask? And unfortunately, out of the sort of 27 HMRC approved excise warehouse accounts that we've got throughout Scotland, some are distilleries, some are independent warehouses, 99% of them have very strict health and safety rules. These are working warehouses where you can't just have, any Tom, Dick and Harry turning up and wanting to see their cask, because it could be, they might have to move 100, 200 casks to get to their cask.
Well, I think that the system has always been quite chaotic or a little archaic. And I think that, the difference with ours is with that revolutionary racking system that we're installing means that we'll never have to move more than 16 casks to get to one of our clients' casks. So again, that's another myth that goes away. So now, accessibility becomes easy.
Absolutely. Well, listen, chaps, it's been really enjoyable. I think we've explained as much as we can with regards to the exit, but every single option is flexible. So that's one thing for our clients to understand. Now, we always end by asking a question
this is concerning.
that our previous guest, which was David Thompson from Annandale Distillery, the fantastic David Thompson.
Name dropper.
Yeah, well, and if you haven't seen that, then please go online and look up our interviews, or my interviews with David. He's a incredibly interesting individual, scientist by trade. He's meticulous with the spirit production that he does there at Annandale. We're very, very lucky to be one of their partners. Yes. And we've got a fantastic event happening on the 29th of this month, which is June. And we're going up there, and I think 60 odd of our clients are coming up, and they're going to fill their own casks, which is going to be a really fantastic day.
What an experience.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. Now, his question was to our next guest, so I'll put this to you, Rob. What are you doing? Yes, to get to net zero, basically.
Carbon.
Yes, your carbon footprint. What are you doing to get your carbon footprint to net zero?
As net zero is a bit of a reach, I think, but certainly the last 5 years I've owned an electric vehicle.
Fully electric or hybrid?
Fully electric. Yes, for the last 5 years now. First of all, it was a bit of a pain, but it's now turned into something that I love and cherish, especially driving into London every day. It works out a lot more economical.
Yeah.
So I think that first and foremost is probably the biggest transition I've made. But also, at home, my wife and I, we think about the amount of emissions that we create, and therefore we've tried to, cavity wall insulation, insulating the hot water tank, not leaving taps running, maybe shorter showers. That's to me, not my wife. So therefore, we have tried all sorts of different ways, our recycling, the way we use plastic. But I think, that's a great question, and thank you very much for asking it to me. But I think, I'd like to turn that back on you. What are we doing as a company, Sam?
Okay.
Because I know that, there's always been plans in place. When I joined the company, you'd always said sustainability and, the environment was really important to us.
Yeah.
So what have we done as a business?
So from a business point of view, we partnered with Trees for Life back in May 2021, I think it was. And we said from May 2021, for every single new client that we bring on, not every cask we sell, but every new client that we bring on, we will plant a tree, which will help rewild the Caledonian forest in Scotland. And so far, I think we have about 1,100 trees in our grove. We also, all of our company cars are fully electric. We also pay for recycling to be collected. So most people will know, if they run a business at home, obviously you get free recycling, for your tins and your plastics and your paper. But as an office, as a company, you don't. You have to pay for that, and a lot of people don't bother. They just throw it out in the normal domestic rubbish. But we don't. We pay for the recycling. And obviously, a lot of the casks that we trade have already been used before, maybe once or twice. So, the whiskey market as a whole is recycling the wood that it uses to mature their spirit in, which is fantastic. Apart from that, I always make sure the heating's down. I'm in the office. I don't know whether that's from a cost point of view.
1 centigrade will save 8%. So 1 centigrade, turning it down 1 centigrade will save 8% on the environment. So therefore, I think that in itself, no wonder all the girls are running around with big thick cardigans.
Gilets on, yeah.
So they've come in really handy, those gilets, haven't they?
And also, you can probably see in the background there, if you're watching this live, there's a coffee pod machine there. Well, those pods must be out of date by about 2 years, because we've replaced the coffee machine with a bean to cup coffee machine, because we didn't want to keep having these pods. However, those are compostable. But even so, we wanted to just reduce everything that we can. We've got a water butt. We don't have plastic cups. We've got glasses for everybody to drink their water from. And we just try and do little points.
Paper reduction has been something that I've noticed as well. Everybody used to use notepads. Now all of a sudden everybody types their notes on their PC. So
absolutely,
trying to create that has been another great way of saving.
Sure. So, Guy, let's come to you for this one. It's a bit of a tricky one, but what would be your question for our next guest?
Do we know who the next guest is?
We have no clue.
Are we making a whiskey based?
Yeah, let's make it whiskey based.
I would love to know what their favorite dram of this year or last year was.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, let's have it. Should we keep it in 2024?
2024?
Let's keep it 2024. Favorite dram of 2024.
Wonderful.
I'll be sure to ask it, and I'll make sure they're not a teetotaler, the next person that's on. But fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, chaps. I really appreciate it. And that's a wrap.
Really appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for watching. We really appreciate your support with the podcast. If you like what you see and you'd like to see some more, we've got loads of content coming up with some fantastic guests. Hit the subscribe button and give us your thoughts on what content and guests you'd like to see in the future.